Okay, thank you. Good morning from Cleveland, Ohio. My name is Satinder Puri. I'm a community activist, a retired structural engineer, and a volunteer teacher at one of Cleveland's schools on the west side. I'm here today standing in front of the Quicken Loans Arena, and I'm holding two signs. One says no to corporate welfare for Billionaire Cavs owner, yes to Go Cavs, and then of course Go Cavs 2016 NBA champs. So I'm going to be talking about my campaign of no to corporate welfare. Now the Quicken Loans Arena behind us is a 22-year-old arena. It holds a number of events. Most of it, of course, are the games that our Cavaliers, known as the Cavs, who were the 2016 NBA champs, play out here. Now, the Quicken Loans Arena, also called Cleveland's living room, holds a lot of other events, other sports events, musical performances, ice skating, and so on. Now the owner of the arena, the major tenant of the arena is Mr. Gilbert, Dan Gilbert. He's a billionaire with assets over $5 billion, who also has major stakes in the casino we have next door, the Jack Casino. And he also has the Quicken Loans and other assets he has in Detroit. Well, the arena is 22 years old, and last year in 2016, the Republican convention was held out here. So it's a 22-year-old building. It's almost as good as new, doing very well, but Mr. Gilbert says, no, the arena needs an upgrade, a renovation, to modernize it, to bring it up to par with the other arenas we have around the country. So Mr. Gilbert proposed a renovation initial cost of $140 million. And since he's a major tenant, he said, well, the cost is $140 million, and what I'll do is I'll pay $70 million and let the city and county come up with the rest of the money. Well, fine. The city and county came up with a plan, taking money from here and there, from the convention center, money from admission taxes, money from the hotel bed tax, and so on. So they came up with a scheme where they would provide $70 million to Mr. Gilbert, and Mr. Gilbert said in turn he will hold an NBA All-Stars game in 2019 or 2020 and give out some other benefits to the city. And what we were saying is, Cleveland, Mr. Gilbert has tons of money, and Cleveland, being a poor city, has tons of problems. We have homelessness, we have high crime, our schools need more attention, and so on. And we are, of course, also a city with a very high poverty rate, over close to 40% in the general population and over 50% among children. And we are saying is a city like ours cannot afford to spend $70 million on Mr. Gilbert. He has tons of money, and he can surely spend $70 million for the upgrade of the arena. Now, Mr. Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs, spends over $130 million towards the payroll of his team. And so what's $70 million as money that he can easily afford to spend for the upgrade of the arena? So a campaign was started, and a lot of groups got together. One of the groups was the greater Cleveland congregations. They think that there should be an equity fund, so that money should be spent. In addition to money should be spent for our neighborhoods, for our schools, and for the homeless, and for fighting issues dealing with poverty and drug addiction and so on. And then there was another group called the Cuyahoga County Progressive Caucus. They joined hands, and of course I am an activist all on my own, fighting an army of one, trying to fight for social justice. And I came up with my campaign too: no to corporate welfare for Cleveland's billionaire owner, yes to go Cavs. And we joined hands, and what we did was we spoke at Cuyahoga County Council meetings, at city council meetings and so on, and my sign with the campaign was seen all over Cleveland, on the west side, east side, downtown, in University Circle. So we all campaigned and tried to get the people together to say this is not fair. We need social justice, and we went ahead and we collected petitions. So over 22,000 petitions. The objective was that the money, at least that was coming from the city of Cleveland, admission taxes and so on, we said the voters should decide that whether the money should be allocated to the queue or the money should be spent for other purposes. So 22,000 petitions were collected. They were submitted to the city of Cleveland. Now Cleveland, as you know, even though the Democrats are in charge, they can be up to dirty tricks and always try to work in their own self-interest. So what they did was, when the petitions were submitted, they said, oh, so sorry, the contract has already been signed with the queue and we can't accept your petitions. So the petitions were not accepted, and then a local law firm with the activist Peter Petakas took the case to the Supreme Court, and finally the Supreme Court ruled in our favor and said, no, the city should accept the petitions and the issue should be put to a referendum. Well, the city accepted the petitions, but then, you know how they play dirty? They said, oh, so sorry, we don't have enough time. Even though the general election is in November, we don't have time to put up the issue for ballot on November. We'll have to do it some later date. Well, all right. The reason they didn't want to put up the issue for election is most of the councilmen every councilman is up for re-election, and so is the mayor. They didn't want this issue to come up because the people are all very unhappy with the current administration and the way issues stand, and they were afraid that if this issue were put on the November ballot, this might increase the turnout, and if the turnout goes up, a lot of the councilmen may lose elections, as may the mayor. So they played a dirty trick, and they said, oh, this will have to come up another time. Well, a few days ago, Mr. Gilbert, the owner of the Cavs, surprised everybody. He said he's not going to go ahead with the renovation. He shelved the plans, and he said, forget it, no renovation. Now everybody's saying, oh, the queue is so good for us, and it does this for that. It generates jobs. It's a prime mover for economic activity downtown. A lot of nonsense, total baloney though. I mean, any activity that they do downtown hardly filters down to the people outside downtown. So they're always trying to scare us. Oh, Mr. Gilbert, he does so much for the Cavs. Mr. Gilbert, if you don't help him with the $70 million, Mr. Gilbert may take his Cavs and leave town. Well, you know, Mr. LeBron James, he left town. And Cleveland, no, we prospered. So the Cavs, if they want to, they can leave town, and they say the building will be vacant. Well, the building may be vacant. Guess what? We can tear it down and we can put up a Trump hotel. Trump hotels are doing well all over the world, though. So nothing to be worried about. So this is where it stood a few days ago, though. Mr. Gilbert said, oh, I'm not going to go up with the renovation of the queue. The queue doesn't need a renovation. Look at it all around, though. Nothing wrong with it, though. No, he has to put up a glass atrium. He has to improve some sightlines inside. He wants to put up restaurants inside to improve the fan experience and so on. Baloney, just a lot of baloney, right? If he wants to do it, let him do it with his own money, though. So then everybody got very scared. Oh, the jobs will be leaving, construction jobs will leave town, and there won't be the economic generator and so on, all the usual nonsense. And so everybody got the political leaders, they all got very scared. And then guess what? The Greater Cleveland congregation, which was leading the campaign for collecting over 22,000 petitions, all of a sudden these fellows, mind you, these fellows made up of religious congregations all over Cleveland and in Cuyahoga County, these are people who talk about God and love in the morning and love and God in the afternoon. These fellows all of a sudden turned course and said, oh, you know what? We are going to withdraw our petitions. Now, how can you do that, though? This was a democratic process. 22,000 people signed petitions that no, the issue of financing, public financing of the renovation of the queue should be put to the voters and let the voters decide. So these fellows, all of a sudden, we don't know what happened, but you know about how the church is. The church cannot always be trusted to be working in the interest of the public. They can sometimes side up with the state and work in their own self-interest. So all of a sudden, what they did was they withdrew the petitions. They said, oh, you know, so sorry, we are going to withdraw the petitions. We don't want this issue of public financing of the renovation of the queue to be put on the public ballot. So this is where we stand now. The issue has been withdrawn, and Mr. Gilbert has said that he's going to decide by September 15th, going ahead with the construction, renovation of the queue. So this way, he will be able to bring the All-Star game, NBA game in 2019 or 2020, and that is supposed to bring a lot of, maybe $100 million to Cleveland, which you can always count upon is going to help people downtown, and not a penny is going to filter down to the public or the neighborhoods all over Cleveland. So here we have a case. 22,000 Clevelanders joined hands. They wanted the issue to be placed on the ballot, and these people at the top, they did wheeling and dealing with the city, with Mr. Gilbert and others to usurp democracy. So no matter what happens, whether the construction of the remodeling of the queue goes ahead with public funds, you can be rest assured that as far as this activist is concerned, it's always no to corporate welfare for Cleveland billionaire owners and yes to Go Cavs. So this is Satinder Puri saying, everyone have a very pleasant day. It's overcast in Cleveland, Ohio. As you can see me, I'm all dressed up for no matter what weather comes. So wish you have a very pleasant day and Go Cavs. Thank you.